You know what's wild? Most men spend their whole lives trying to figure out how to be liked by women. But the truth is, likability isn't the game. In fact, the more you try to be liked, the more invisible you become. There is one harsh truth. And once you get it, once you really live it, you will become magnetic to almost every woman you meet. Not because you said the right line, not because you look like a movie star, not because you throw money around, but because you carry something they cannot fake, they cannot buy, and they cannot ignore. It's the thing that makes a woman's eyes stay on you longer than she planned. The thing that makes her replay your words later that night. The thing that when she walks away, she feels without being able to explain why. Here's the crazy part. Most men will never get this. They will die chasing cheap tricks, quick fixes, and fake confidence. But a small percentage of the rare few will master it. And when they do, it changes everything. So here's my warning. Once you understand this truth, there is no going back. You will lose the need to impress. You will stop tolerating certain behaviors. You will see people differently, including yourself. And yes, you'll become irresistible to 95.5% of women without even trying. The question is, can you handle the truth? Or will you do what most do and run from it? Strength. It's a word people throw around so casually, they forget what it actually means. Most think of it as muscles, a deep voice, a firm handshake, but that's not the strength that makes you truly magnetic. The strength that women respect more than anything isn't the weight you can lift. It's the weight you can carry without collapsing. It's not how hard you can hit. It's how steady you can remain when life hits you. Here's the harsh truth. A woman will respect you for your looks for about 5 minutes, maybe admire your status for a little while, but the thing that will make her stay, the thing that will make her drawn to you without even fully understanding why, is your strength. And I'm talking about mental strength, emotional resilience, and the unshakable confidence that says, I know who I am, I know what I stand for, and I am not moved by your storms. See, deep down, women are wired to assess men for one thing. Can he handle the storm? It's not about them being manipulative or difficult. It's instinct, even without realizing it. They are constantly reading you, looking for signs. Will you stay calm when life throws chaos your way? Or will you crumble? Will you stand your ground when you're tested? Or will you fold to keep the peace? Will you protect your values or sell them out for a quick moment of comfort? That's why they test you. And it's not always intentional. Sometimes it's in the small moments. A comment to see if you get defensive, a delay to see if you get impatient, a disagreement to see if you can handle opposition. She's not just checking your mood, she's checking your core. And here's the part most men get wrong. They think passing that test is about never showing weakness, about being cold, hard, and untouchable. That's not it. Real strength isn't about acting like nothing gets to you. It's about not letting what gets to you control you. You can feel anger, frustration, disappointment, but you choose your response. That's the difference between a boy and a man. I've seen it countless times. A man who loses his cool over something small instantly loses her respect. He might win the argument in that moment, but deep down something shifted, because if he can't handle a small disagreement, how will he handle a real crisis? And whether she says it out loud or not, that question will start to echo in her mind. Think about it. What's more powerful? A man who reacts to every push, every jab, every mood swing, or the man who stands there, grounded, calm, with the quiet confidence that says, you can throw what you want at me, but I decide how I move. That man becomes a rock in the world full of quicksand. And a woman knows, consciously or not, that standing next to that rock feels safe. Because here's another truth. Women aren't just looking for someone to laugh with, travel with, or share dinners with. They are looking for someone they can trust when things get ugly, someone who won't turn on them when pressure builds, someone who won't collapse when the weight gets heavy. And they can tell, they can tell very quickly. That's why so many men get blindsided when they lose a woman's respect. They think it was about the fight, or the comment, or the one bad day. But in reality, it was about the patterns, the small ways you showed you couldn't hold the line, the moments you tried to please instead of lead, the moments you backed down when you should have stood up. Those chips in your armor add up until one day she just doesn't see you the same way anymore. The men women respect most are not the loudest, flashiest, or most physically imposing. They are the ones who have faced storms, heartbreak, rejection, failure, betrayal, and came out the other side with their self-respect intact. They are the men who have scars but are not defined by them. The men who don't need to prove their worth to anyone because they already know it. Strength also shows in how you hold your boundaries. When you know what is acceptable and what is not, and you enforce it without yelling, threatening, or making a scene, you simply remove yourself from situations and people that cross the line. No warnings, no begging, no chasing. That sends a signal stronger than any speech. I value myself enough to walk away. And that is magnetic. And yes, this kind of strength makes you irresistible because it's rare. Most men are ruled by emotions they don't control. They lash out when they're angry. They sulk when they don't get their way. They beg for another chance after being disrespected. And here's the harsh truth. Women might feel sorry for those men, but they will never truly respect them. And without respect, there is no attraction that lasts. So how do you build this kind of strength? You face discomfort on purpose. You put yourself in situations that challenge your patience, your discipline, your self-control. You learn to say no without guilt. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation. You hold yourself to a standard that you refuse to lower, not for her, not for anyone. Because in the end, it's not about being bulletproof. It's about being unshakable in who you are. And when a woman sees that in you, when she realizes you are not moved by every whim, not broken by every setback, not desperate for every ounce of attention, something changes. She leans in, she watches closer, she tests less, because she knows this man is built differently. That is the harsh truth. Women respect strength more than anything. And once you have it, you don't just become more attractive, you become unforgettable. The quickest way to lose someone's respect, and yes, their attraction, is to make their approval your oxygen. The moment you start living for someone's validation, you hand them the power to define you. And once they have that power, they can take it away whenever they want. Here's the uncomfortable reality. When you seek approval, you're saying, without words, I'm not sure I'm enough, so I need you to confirm it for me. That's not confidence, that's dependence. And no matter how much someone might like you at first, dependence will always erode respect. Most people don't even realize when they've fallen into this trap. It starts small. You start texting a little too quickly after every message. You start adjusting your opinions to match theirs just to avoid conflict. You start doing things you wouldn't normally do just to get that little hit of approval, the smile, that you're so sweet, that you're such a good guy. But here's the problem. When your worth depends on how someone else reacts to you, you stop being yourself. You become a version of you that's designed to please them, not a man who stands on his own. At first, they might enjoy the attention, but over time, it becomes predictable. And predictable becomes boring. Why? Because you're no longer a challenge. You've shown that you will bend and mold yourself for their comfort. You've shown that you fear losing their approval more than you value staying true to yourself. And that's when something shifts. The curiosity, the pull, the magnetism, it starts to fade. The men who hold long-term attraction are not the ones who constantly try to impress. They are the ones who are willing to walk away if something doesn't align with their values. They're not rude, they're not arrogant, but they are clear. I know who I am, and I'm not going to change that just to be liked. That's not stubbornness, that's self-respect. You have to understand something. Approval-seeking energy is loud, even when you think you're hiding it. People can feel when you're performing. They can sense when your compliment is designed to get one back. They can tell when you're saying yes because you're afraid to say no, and the moment they sense it, they know you are playing from a place of fear, not strength. Think about the men who naturally draw people in. They're not chasing laughs or likes. They're not trying to match everyone's mood. They show up as they are, and they let people decide if they like it or not, and if someone doesn't, they don't crumble. They don't start overthinking every word. They move on because their self-worth isn't on trial every time they meet someone new. When you stop seeking approval, your whole energy changes. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for things you don't need to apologize for. You start saying no without guilt. You start making decisions based on what's right for you, not what's going to make everyone else comfortable. And here's the irony. The moment you stop chasing approval, people start giving it to you freely. Why? Because they respect people who don't need it. Approval is most attractive when it's optional, not desperate. If you can live without it, you earn it. If you need it to survive, you lose it. Now, this doesn't mean you become a cold, unfeeling statue who never cares what anyone thinks. That's not strength, that's just insecurity wearing a mask. The difference is that you can appreciate approval without depending on it. You can take a compliment, but you're not addicted to it. You can enjoy someone's attention, but you're not lost without it. Here's a test you can try. The next time you feel yourself about to do something for someone's approval, whether it's buying something you can't afford, saying yes to something you don't want to do, or agreeing with an opinion you don't believe, stop. Ask yourself, if I knew they would disapprove of this, would I still do it? If the answer is no, you're not acting from authenticity, you're acting from fear. And fear is the enemy of respect. When you operate from self-approval first, something powerful happens. You stop needing to be the nice guy who's always agreeable. You stop over-investing in people who haven't earned it. You stop tolerating behavior that drains you. You start holding people to the same standard you hold yourself. And you start seeing who actually values you for you and who just values what you can do for them. This shift is uncomfortable, especially if you've spent years seeking validation. You will lose people. Some will call you selfish. Some will accuse you of changing. But the people who are worth keeping, they'll respect you more than ever. Because deep down, they know it takes courage to live without a constant need for approval. When you stop seeking approval, you free yourself from emotional chains. You're no longer at the mercy of someone else's mood. You're no longer terrified of disapproval. You're no longer trying to please people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. You start living life on your own terms. And ironically, that's when the right people start chasing you. Because here's the thing, most men are so desperate to be liked that they blend into the background. They think the way to win someone over is to be agreeable, accommodating, and endlessly available. But that doesn't inspire respect. It inspires convenience. You're not seen as a prize. You're seen as an option. The man who stops seeking approval stands out. He's not aggressive, but he's decisive. He's not arrogant, but he knows his worth. He's not unkind, but he's not a doormat. And when you carry that energy, you don't have to chase anyone. People will feel the difference, and they will be drawn to it. So stop making approval your goal. Make self-respect your standard. Live by your values, even if it costs you people. Speak your truth, even if it makes some uncomfortable. Choose what's right over what's popular. Because once you do that, you'll never have to wonder whether someone's with you because they like you or because they like the version of you that's been molded to fit their needs. The moment you stop seeking approval is the moment you start living. And the moment you start living on your terms, that's when you become truly irresistible. Boundaries are not about being mean, controlling, or cutting people off for the smallest mistakes. They are about knowing where you end and where someone else begins. They are the invisible lines that protect your time, your energy, your peace, and your self-respect. And whether you realize it or not, every single interaction you have with someone is teaching them where your boundaries are and whether you actually enforce them. Here's the thing, most men don't realize boundaries are not something you announce once and then forget. They are something you live by. And people, especially women, are constantly testing them. Sometimes those tests are intentional, but most of the time they're not. It's human nature to push a little to see how far you can go. And the way you respond in those moments says more about you than any words you speak. If someone can get away with disrespecting you without consequences, they will lose respect for you, even if they care about you. It's not about being perfect. It's about how you respond when your standards are challenged. Do you stay quiet to avoid conflict? Do you over-explain and try to convince them to respect you? Or do you calmly, confidently make it clear that certain behaviors are not acceptable and back it up with action? A lot of men think setting boundaries will make them lose people. And you know what? They're right. You will lose people, but only the ones who are never going to treat you right in the first place. The people who truly value you will not be pushed away by your boundaries. They'll be drawn to them because your boundaries tell the world, I know my worth, and I'm not afraid to protect it. Picture this. You make plans with someone, and at the last minute, they cancel on you without a real reason. Most men will respond by saying, no worries, let's reschedule, even if they're frustrated. Why? Because they don't want to seem difficult. But here's the silent message that sends, my time isn't valuable, so you can treat it however you like. A man with strong boundaries will acknowledge the cancellation, but won't rush to offer another slot. Not because he's playing games, but because he respects his own time enough not to hand it over to someone who treats it carelessly. This applies to everything: how people speak to you, how they show up for you, how they treat your space, your energy, and your trust. If you let a disrespectful tone slide once, you've just told them it's okay. If you tolerate someone constantly showing up late, you've told them your time is flexible for them. If you ignore small lies, you've told them you're willing to live with dishonesty. Every time you accept something beneath your standards, you are training people to believe it's acceptable. And here's the part that stings. Once someone gets used to crossing your boundaries, they rarely go back to respecting them. That's why it's critical to address things early. The first time someone crosses a line, you have an opportunity to set the tone. The more you avoid it, the more you teach them that your standards are negotiable. Boundaries don't have to be loud. In fact, the strongest boundaries are often enforced quietly. You don't have to yell, curse, or give a long speech. You simply adjust your actions. If someone speaks to you in a way you don't tolerate, you end the conversation. If someone keeps taking without giving, you stop giving. If someone disrespects your time, you stop making yourself available. You don't punish them, you just remove their access to certain parts of you. Women notice this. They notice when you protect your peace without making a scene. They notice when you refuse to entertain disrespect, even in small doses. And it sends a powerful message. This man values himself. And if I want to be part of his life, I have to value him too. That creates attraction, not resentment. The opposite is also true. When a woman sees that you allow your boundaries to be crossed repeatedly, her respect for you starts to fade. It's not because she's cruel. It's because on a deep level, she understands that if you can't stand up for yourself, you won't be able to stand up for her. And a man who can't stand up for himself is not a man she can fully trust. Some men try to disguise a lack of boundaries as being easygoing or being nice. But being easygoing should never mean being walked over. Niceness without boundaries is weakness. Kindness with boundaries is strength. The difference is that kindness respects both you and the other person, while weakness only respects the other person at your own expense. A man with boundaries doesn't operate from fear. He's not afraid of losing someone if they don't respect his standards because he knows losing them is better than losing himself. He's not afraid of someone being upset because he understands that discomfort is a natural part of enforcing limits. And he's not afraid of being alone because he knows being alone is far better than being with someone who erodes his self-respect. If you want to be truly respected by women, by friends, by colleagues, you have to be willing to risk losing them in order to keep your boundaries. This doesn't mean being rigid or unreasonable. It means having a clear sense of what's acceptable in your life and refusing to lower that standard for anyone. The people who are meant to be in your life will meet you there. The ones who aren't will fall away. And that's not a loss, it's a filter. The silent test of boundaries is when you're taking every day, whether you realize it or not. Every time someone pushes, they're watching to see if you push back. Every time someone disrespects you, they're watching to see if you correct it. Every time someone challenges your values, they're watching to see if you hold your ground. Fail enough of those tests, and the respect disappears. Pass them consistently, and you become someone whose presence demands it without a word. Boundaries aren't about building walls to keep people out. They're about building doors and deciding who gets the key. They're about protecting what matters most, your self-respect, so that the people you let in are the ones who truly deserve to be there. And when you live like that, Not only will women respect you, but you'll respect yourself in a way that makes you untouchable. You can have the perfect jawline, a body sculpted in the gym, and style that turns heads, but if you can't control your emotions, all of that fades fast. Looks might get you noticed, but they can't keep you respected. What keeps someone's attention? What keeps them trusting you, admiring you, even wanting to be near you, is emotional control. And this is something far rarer and far more powerful than good genetics or a sharp wardrobe. Emotional control is not about never feeling anything. It's about not letting those feelings dictate your behavior in ways that damage you. It's about having the discipline to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, and to act in alignment with your values rather than in response to a temporary surge of anger, jealousy, or fear. It's the difference between being a man who is grounded and a man who is easily shaken. A lot of men underestimate just how much emotional volatility kills attraction. At first, a woman might be impressed by your appearance, charmed by your wit, or drawn in by your confidence, but if she starts to see that you're quick to anger over small things, quick to sulk when you don't get your way, or quick to spiral when you feel insecure, that attraction erodes, because on a deeper level, she starts to think, if he loses control this easily, how will he handle real pressure? You have to remember, life will test you constantly. People will disappoint you, situations will frustrate you, and not everything will go your way. How you respond in those moments is what defines you. Anyone can be composed when life is smooth, but when the pressure builds, the mask slips, and the real you shows up. If that real you is impatient, explosive, or emotionally reckless, it doesn't matter how good you look. You've already lost the game. Emotional control creates safety. And safety doesn't mean you're boring or passive. It means you're dependable when it counts. It means when chaos erupts, you're the one who stays level-headed. It means when someone tries to provoke you, you don't take the bait. It means you don't crumble under criticism, and you don't lash out when you're uncomfortable. That kind of composure is magnetic because it's so rare. Think about the last time you saw someone completely lose it in public, maybe yelling at a waiter, screaming during traffic, or throwing a tantrum over something small. No matter how right they might have been in the situation, their loss of control overshadowed everything else. They didn't look powerful. They looked weak because they let something external dictate their internal state. Now imagine the opposite, someone facing the same pressure but handling it with calm precision. No yelling, no panic, no visible desperation, just clear, steady action. That's the person people remember. This is especially true in relationships. Emotions run high when you're close to someone. Disagreements happen, stress builds, feelings get hurt. If you're the type to fire back immediately, raise your voice, or try to win every argument, you're showing that your ego is in control, not you. On the other hand, if you can listen without letting your emotions hijack you, if you can pause and respond instead of react, you show strength, you show that you're not ruled by impulse, and that earns more respect than any six-pack ever could. Emotional control also means you don't let other people's moods pull you into their chaos. If she's upset, you don't immediately mirror that energy and escalate it. If she's testing you to see if she can get a reaction, you don't give her the satisfaction of seeing you unravel. You stay steady, you decide when and how you engage, and you never let someone else's storm sink your ship. One of the most attractive things you can communicate without saying a word is, I choose how I respond, no matter what happens. That doesn't mean you're cold or robotic. You can still be passionate, still show excitement, still feel deeply. It just means you're not a prisoner to those feelings. You own them. They don't own you. This is also why emotional control is a leadership quality. People naturally follow those who can think clearly, when others can't. In every crisis, there are people who panic and people who plan. The ones who plan are the ones people look to for direction. And in relationships, women instinctively gravitate toward that type of man. Not because they can't handle themselves, but because being with someone who can keep his cool under pressure makes them feel safe and secure. Developing emotional control is not easy. It requires self-awareness, discipline, and practice. You have to learn your triggers, The things that get under your skin, the situations that make you defensive, the patterns that make you lose your composure. And you have to train yourself to pause before you act. That pause is where power lives. It's the difference between making a choice and making a mistake. You can build this by exposing yourself to controlled stress situations where you deliberately put yourself under pressure and practice staying calm. It could be physical training, competitive environments, or even difficult conversations where you resist the urge to react impulsively. Every time you hold your composure when it's hard, you're strengthening that muscle. And here's something important. Emotional control is not about suppression. Suppressing emotions means you bury them until they explode later. True control means you acknowledge your emotions, you process them, and then you decide the best course of action. It's about mastery, not denial. When you live this way, people notice. They notice that you're not quick to anger, that you don't get rattled easily, that you're not pulled into drama. They notice that you're stable, grounded, and deliberate. And in a world full of emotional volatility, that stability is intoxicating. It communicates that you can handle whatever comes, and that's more attractive than any physical feature you could possibly have. Because looks fade, styles change, bodies age, but the ability to remain composed under pressure, that's timeless. That's the trait that keeps people loyal, that makes them trust you, that makes them want to be around you long after the initial spark fades. It's the thing that sets you apart in a sea of men who look the part but crumble under pressure. So yes, take care of your appearance, stay fit, dress well, present yourself with pride. But understand that without emotional control, all of that is just decoration. The man who can stay calm in the storm, who can hold his ground when the heat rises, who can choose his response instead of being driven by impulse, that's the man who will always have the edge. That's the man who becomes unforgettable. When a man has a mission, he moves differently. His time feels different, his presence feels different, and his energy feels different. You can sense when a man is going somewhere in life, and you can sense when he's not. And here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Women are drawn to men who are already in motion, not men waiting to be inspired, not men looking for someone to save them from boredom, but men who are already chasing something bigger than themselves. Purpose changes the way people see you. It changes the way you walk into a room. It changes the way you carry yourself in conversation. When your life has direction, you don't radiate neediness because you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're not waiting around for validation or entertainment. You already have a mission that fuels you every morning. And anyone who joins your life is stepping into something that's already moving. The opposite is also true. When you don't have purpose, you tend to make relationships your main source of identity. You start filling your days with someone else's schedule, someone else's goals, someone else's emotional weather. You become so focused on keeping them happy that you forget to keep building yourself. And in the process, you lose the very spark that might have attracted them in the first place. A man without purpose is like a ship without a destination. It doesn't matter how beautiful the vessel is, if it's just drifting, it's vulnerable to every wave and every wind. A man with purpose, on the other hand, has his course set. He's willing to adjust his sails when necessary, but he never loses sight of where he's headed. That sense of direction is magnetic because it signals stability, leadership, and strength. This doesn't mean your purpose has to be grand in a way that impresses the whole world. It doesn't have to be about building an empire, being famous, or making millions. Your purpose could be to master your craft, to build a certain life for yourself and your family, to contribute to a cause you care about, or to reach a personal level of discipline and excellence. What matters is that it's yours, not something handed to you, not something you borrowed to look impressive, but something you've chosen and committed to. Women instinctively pick up on this. They notice the man who prioritizes his training, his work, his projects, not because he's avoiding them, but because he's dedicated to something important. They notice when you protect your time, when you're not always available because you're working toward a goal. That scarcity makes your attention more valuable. It also makes them respect you more because you're not willing to abandon your path just to chase instant gratification. Without purpose, it's easy to fall into the trap of over-investing in someone too soon. You meet a woman, and suddenly she becomes your focus. You rearrange your schedule for her, cancel your plans for her, even neglect your own responsibilities for her. At first, she might enjoy the attention, but soon she'll see that you've made her your mission. And while that might sound romantic, it's actually heavy. It puts pressure on her to be your reason for waking up in the morning, and no healthy person wants to carry that burden. Purpose creates balance. It keeps you grounded when emotions run high. It keeps you focused when temptation calls. It gives you a reason to say no to things that don't serve you. And it reminds you that your value doesn't come from who's sitting across the table from you. It comes from the life you're building and the man you're becoming. Think about the difference between a man who says, I can't, I have to work on something important, and the man who says, sure, I can drop everything. The first man communicates that his time has weight. He respects himself enough to protect it. The second man communicates that his time is cheap, easily given away, and available on demand. One creates curiosity and respect. The other eventually becomes taken for granted. Purpose also forces you to grow. It challenges you to get uncomfortable, to face setbacks, to keep moving even when it's hard. That resilience becomes part of who you are, and that resilience is deeply attractive. It shows that you're not the kind of man who quits when things get inconvenient. You stick to what matters to you, and that reliability is rare. When you live with purpose, you don't have to sell yourself to anyone. You don't have to convince them you're valuable. Your life speaks for you. Your discipline speaks for you. Your results speak for you. And the right woman will want to be part of that journey, not because you made her the center of your universe, but because you invited her into something meaningful. Men who put purpose over a woman are not saying women don't matter. They're saying, I matter first. They're saying this path I'm on is important, and I'm not abandoning it for anyone. And ironically, that makes the right woman want to support you even more, because she knows she's with a man who won't lose himself for her, and that makes her feel safer in the relationship. Without purpose, you'll risk becoming dependent on the relationship for your identity. And when that happens, you'll bend too easily, tolerate too much, and lose yourself in the process. With purpose, you stand firm. You can love deeply without losing your center. You can give without depleting yourself. You can commit without becoming consumed. A man chasing his mission will always have an energy about him that's hard to ignore. He walks into a room with a quiet focus, not looking for approval but for opportunity. He makes decisions based on where he's going, not based on how someone else feels in the moment. He doesn't need someone to inspire him to take action. The fire is already burning inside him. And here's the most powerful part. When you live like this, you don't have to worry about chasing women at all. They find you, they notice the man who's in motion, the man who's building, the man whose life has meaning. They're drawn to that energy because deep down they want to be with someone who's going somewhere, someone they can walk beside, not someone they have to drag along. Your purpose is the foundation of everything. Without it, you drift. With it, you rise. And when you rise, the right people, including the right woman, will rise with you. That's why purpose comes first. Not because love isn't important, but because without purpose, love has nothing solid to stand on. At the end of the day, everything we've talked about comes down to one thing. You cannot fake being a man who knows his worth. You can memorize all the right words, dress in the sharpest suit, hit the gym until your body is carved from stone. But if inside you're still chasing approval, bending your boundaries, losing control over your emotions, and putting her above your purpose, you will never be truly irresistible. This isn't about tricks. This isn't about getting a woman. This is about becoming the kind of man who doesn't have to chase, because his life, his presence, and his energy do the work for him. Strength, real strength, is silent, steady, and unshakable. It's walking into a room without needing anyone's validation. It's standing your ground without raising your voice. It's looking a woman in the eye and knowing that whether she stays or walks away, your value doesn't move an inch. Here's the truth. No one wants to tell you. When you stop living for her and start living for your mission, you rise above the noise. When you stop reacting emotionally to every little thing, you become a rock in a world full of waves. When you hold your boundaries and refuse to compromise your values, you force people to meet you at your standard or not at all. And when you carry that strength with quiet confidence, 95.5% of women will notice. They can't help it. But more importantly, you will notice, you will feel different. You will look at yourself in the mirror and see a man who doesn't need permission to take up space in this world. That is the real prize. Attention, the respect, the attraction. Those are just the side effects. So stop asking, how do I make her want me? Start asking, how do I become a man I'm proud of? Because when you master that, everything else will follow. And once you understand this harsh truth, you'll never want to go back. You won't need to.